tree oil on her chest and
You're
honey.
live.
Hello, hello, hello. Anybody out there yet? Hello. Sign in if you're out there. Don't make me talk to myself, guys.
Don't forget to mention you don't have coffee either.
Yes.
Shush. Not on Saturday or next Thursday.
Hello, hello, hello. Anita's usually our first one here, and she's not here today. The iPhone is frozen. Oh, maybe it's fine now.
Your sound is fine.
It's 4 o'clock.
Okay, there's Betty. Hi, Betty. I was afraid I was going to have to talk to myself. Which wouldn't be unusual. I talk to myself all the time. It's just that I would be forced to answer as well, which might be a little weird. How are you, friend?
Can't do anything about that now.
Anita's one of our other regulars who's usually here early, but she's out of town today, so she's going to watch us later. Ah, thank you, thank you. That's a nice big bottle. Oh, hi, Avis. Welcome.
Just scoot over.
Welcome, welcome. We're going to need to move that over too.
I just need the mat scooted over, not you.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm getting instruction from my technical advisor here in the background. Okay, you guys ready to go? Just don't answer. Oh, you wouldn't want to hear me when I'm out here working by myself. I am talking to myself back and forth. Margie used to give me a hard time about it because she'd be out here working with me and I'd be here talking to myself. She'd say, "You talking to me?" I'd say, "No, I'm just talking to myself." Hello, Mirri Robertson. And now I've got her talking to herself too, so. It's not like her good habits have rubbed off on me. My bad habits have rubbed off on her.
I don't know, it's a bad habit. So it's apparently keeping my brain straight.
Say, hi, Betty. Oh, we're getting somewhere. Say hi to Margie. She's here doing the technical stuff.
Hi, guys.
So we'll give it just a minute to see who else joins us. If you've got your kits there, one of the things you can start on, if you would, is we're going to want to, I guess I got to do it too, but we're going to want to stamp some masks to start with. We're going to be masking fools today. Maybe not fools. Maybe I'm the only masking fool, but we are going to be doing masking. Betty, Mary, Avis all say hi, Margie, and hi, technical lady. This reminds me back in the day when I used to do the art literacy program. Kids all over town called me the art lady. There's the art lady. I did the art literacy program, which was a parent volunteer program for our elementary school. But lots of the parents were in the school district had both parents working, so we didn't have a lot of volunteers, and I couldn't stand the idea that some kids got art while others didn't. So any classroom that wasn't covered, I did. And one year I had 22 classes in all grades, from kindergarten clear through 5th grade for art literacy. So particularly in that year, but in all years, I knew almost every kid in the school. We had between 500 and 600 kids. But they'd see kids, I didn't necessarily know them all by name, but I knew them all by sight at least. And everywhere we went, Mom, there's the art lady. So maybe it'll stick, Margie. Maybe you'll be the technical lady.
Maybe. I was at my house for a really long time. I had to show James how to set up the TVs and how to connect the PlayStation and how to install the speakers and how to do it in his car so that he could get better sound with all the bass. And so I have been, but he paid attention. It's something
so
that
now
he
he
likes.
can do
So
it.
now he gets to do it without me. Yes.
It was great, great fun, Mary. It really, really was. It was so rewarding to those kids. I loved them. They were such fun. Such fun. Then I could kind of follow all those kids through. And man, when my daughter graduated, it was like half of the, at least, well, I don't know, the grade school we had fed into different junior highs. It fed into all the same high school, but there were still hundreds of kids I knew that were graduating with my daughter, so that was pretty fun. I didn't send cards and money to all of them. I did remember them. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started, because I think we have our bass crew here. We'll have some others check in along the way. Let's go ahead and start. I want you to get a piece of copy paper or copy weight paper, if you would, please. How do you keep the butterfly card from falling apart? Then I went your tutorial and saw you use the rhinestone as a stopper. Oh, okay, cool. Thanks. Glad I could help. All right. And oh my gosh, yes. I remember that too, taking all my art projects home and showing my mom what I made for her. I remember that too, Mary. In fact, I am now 61 years old, and my mom still hangs every year the poinsettia that I made for her in like second grade. We made them out of crepe paper. Hi, Sadie. Welcome. We made them out of crepe paper and wire, and then we used one of those big, heavy Chinette style plates, and we covered the edges with macaroni and then sprayed the plate gold. My mom still hangs that at the holidays, and I always look for it, because, it's pretty cool that she still hangs my art from second or third grade. I'm easily entertained. What can I say?
And hide it from my mother.
Oh, you try and... This is Brittany talking, my niece, and she says she tries to hide her early art from her mother.
She wants me to help her decorate, so I hide it while I go. The ornaments, they go on the back of the tree.
Oh, not me. Right up front and center. I'm still proud of that second and third grade art. Okay. Can somebody grab me a piece of copy paper out of the office, please?
Yes.
We need to make some masks, guys, for our stamping projects. And I found through trial and error that making masks out of cardstock is not a good way to go, because the mask is so heavy that it creates a shadow around your work. The ink doesn't get all the way up to it. So glad you could tune in with us today, Sadie. Thank you. I appreciate it. So let's get started by making some masks for our inking projects. I'm going to just put a little piece of paper in here into my Press to Impress by Crafts 2. That's the one that I'm using today. You may be using a Misty, or you may be using any number of different stamping platforms. Tim Holtz. They're all basically similar, but excuse me. Let's go ahead and pull out a few of our stamps. We're going to start with a poinsettia today, so let's go ahead and take our poinsettia stamp out, and we are going to make a mask of, we'll do this one first. We'll take a, we're going to do this flower. So it's always fun to try and figure out which side's up on this, but we're going to take the full flower, and let's go ahead and remember that we're masked when we're, anytime we're stamping, the stamp side of the image goes down. If you're having trouble understanding which side's which, the front side will have an edge around it. The back side is all completely flat. So let's put that in. We want a nice dark color for our mask so we can see to cut it out. So I'm going to use this cherry color. We have some interesting colors this week. I kept looking at this cherry color, this cherry walnut, and I kept thinking that is just going to be so dark. I'm just not sure that'll work. And when I used lighter colors, I used the brick red on some of my early samples. There just wasn't enough variation in color. And this cherry walnut ended up being a perfect color for creating the depth in our flowers. So
Isn't that funny? Because you think it's brown.
yeah, it does look brown when you stamp it, but it's perfect when you get it into the red. So we're going to need scissors. Let's see.
See, is a night out like us.
All right. So we're creating our mask. We're just stamping it, cutting around it. We're definitely going to use this, so take a minute and cut some masks with me while we're working, if you would. We're going to mask this. We're going to need masks on the in the holly card. Maybe we should just go ahead and make all our masks at one time. In the holly card, we're going to need a mask of the 3-branch holly, and we're going to need a mask of the berries, believe it or not. I worked to get a pattern where my stems did not show in the holly card, and I had to actually write down a formula for how we could stamp that and have that turn out quite right. So one of the reasons I called this precision stamping today is that these patterns are particularly detailed, which is beautiful in our final stamped image. But boy, we got to really, really line these up. And so the stamp positioner is like the perfect tool for this job. It is just perfect. When you're making this mask, you don't have to take all day cutting this out, you know. Get it pretty close and you're fine. But I did find that cardstock just did not work well for a mask. You really want lighter weight paper. And as I was saying, the problem with the cardstock is that it kept the ink away from the edges too much. And I was kind of getting a little white halos around everything that I didn't want. I wanted it to be right up. I wanted the ink to come right up to the new image. So okay, so I've got my mask cut out. And let's go ahead and get started here. We'll put a piece of cardstock in our press. And there is a right and wrong, or an up and down to this stamp. And to see that, you almost have to load the other piece on top of it to see which way this bloom wants to go. So I want to find the upper side of my bloom, which I have now done. That's the way I want it to go. And I'm going to pull this off. One of the things we've talked about in the last couple weeks is that you don't have to worry about halos around your images. You know, the ink you get on on your acrylic block when you're stamping. And you know how you can get the edges of that showing on your stamped image? Well, one thing we've talked about is that you don't generally have to worry about that with when you're stamping with a stamp platform. Although, one of the things I learned when I was stamping these way more detailed images that we're working with today is that some of these small and thin images, if you have ink on your platform lid, you actually can get a halo. So we'll watch a little more carefully that part of things as we work today. What I'm doing right now, guys, is I'm just trying to find the upper side of my flower. I want to start stamping this such that my flower is going to be right side up. And is that about where I want it? I think that's about where I want it. So I'm going to put this in and close it. And I just remembered as I'm looking here that I did a little bit of green a little bit of green ink blending in the background. Let's do that before we stamp. We can do it later, but we risk getting the green on top of our stamped images, and I just assume put the background in first. If we use this super light green color that we have here, we are...
The apple green?
Yeah, we'll be able to, yes, the apple green. If we use the real light color, we'll be able to stamp right over the top of it without having any without getting green on our beautiful red flower when we're done. So let's...
It really finishes it off to have that around.
You see what I'm talking
really
about? See this real
job.
soft background? We're gonna turn our white into this real soft background here. And as usual, we're gonna take our dauber, or either a dauber or one of these blending sponges. We're gonna dip it in our ink and we're gonna kind of pounce it off a little bit so that we have light color. And then we're just gonna start swirling that light color around on our cardstock, just to give us, you can probably barely see this on camera today, but just to give us that really light, that really light green finish. The weather's beautiful here today, and all of my neighbors are mowing their grass. And if you are allergic to grass pollen as I am, that throws all of that pollen up in the air when they mow, and their yards look beautiful, and I sound like this, so bear with me, guys. I apologize, but it's not anything I can control. It is what it is.
You're just rubbing it in that it's a nice day here because Mirri is dying of heat on the East Coast.
Oh no, it's not. We're not dying of heat. It's beautiful out. What do you think it is out there, Margie? Is it like 70?
It was very close to 70 when I headed this direction.
Yeah, so it's just like perfect out there right now. Sorry. We have to brag when we have 70 because we have rain most of the time. So we gotta brag when it's nice out. Okay, I think I got about enough there. Can you guys see that? Can you see my little bit of green? All I'm doing, guys, is just turning that white card, just adding just a little bit of texture to the back. You see that? So I'm going to set this aside. I learned something interesting about these Nouveau sponges when I was washing them. Mm-hmm. I put a little bit of hand soap on them, and as I told you, a little hand soap, a little warm water, and I was washing and washing, and as I was working, it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. When this is wet, it's about that big around. It's
a
amazing.
true sponge.
It really is. It's like a compressed sponge, and then when it dries out, it goes back to its regular size. But I found that interesting.
I
Okay.
like the handles on them. It feels nice to your fingers.
It does. I just have magnets jumping at me again. Okay, so I'm gonna put my cardstock back down now, and I've got that nice green, soft green on there. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to put my mask back. Oh, I guess I don't need my mask down anymore because I positioned my flower so that it's now going to be facing up. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my lightest background color on, which for us in our kit this week is this camellia pink. You wouldn't think pink would be the right color either, but it's perfect with this, with the chili red and the cherry walnut. They end up being really, really pretty together. So I'm going to put my first layer down. And we got a nice stamped image everywhere. I think just to kind of give it just a little bit more solidness to the image. It's still kind of a little bit freckly. So I'm going to give it just one more press down with our press. And now we've got a beautiful solid red gorgeous image. Clean that up again with my, I think cleanup is one of my favorite aspects of this stamp positioner. I love the fact that you can just run a wet wipe over it and it looks great. Thank you, Mirri. We kind of really specialize in bringing in a lot of European craft items because Sadie is really, really lucky to live over there where we get so many of our beautiful craft supplies.
Told my husband when we go, I'm going to make sure that I have an entire suitcase that I can bring things back in.
I really want to someday, that's on my bucket list, I want to go to UK where we have a lot of providers and meet the folks at Hunky Dory and visit their store, and I want to go to a number of different distributors over there, and then I want to go to the Netherlands because I have some really good long-term relationships with some of our distributors there, so I need to do that.
It's a distributor vacation.
Well, you know, if I do that, I get to write off the vacations.
I knew that
I'm no
was
fool. So yeah, I'll convince them I need a few free samples while I'm there, products to consider for our store, you know. And yeah, I think that's the way to go. I feel like I know a lot of those folks now after all the Sadie, I can appreciate how late it is where you are because I stay up until 2 o'clock in the morning to call Hunky Dory a lot of times, and I'm talking with Adam and Veronica and others at Hunky Dory at 2 in the morning, so I can appreciate what you're doing by being up at our class time, so thank you for your extra effort. It must be a little after midnight there.
She says
Thank
she's
you.
a night owl a little bit.
Oh, well that works. I'm a night owl too, so contacting the distributors in the middle of the night really isn't an issue. Okay, I gave it 2 coats on my red. Get this up where you can see it if it's not too close to be blurry. Is it blurry in your camera, Margie?
It's just got a really big glare from the light.
Oh, okay.
If you set it maybe down on top of the holly card, that seems to have a good light and close enough to where you can see it. Just kind of hang it over.
How's that? Can you
That's
see
a little
it
bit
well?
better, yeah.
I just wanted you to see the red laying on top of that on top of that camellia pink. I think that's really pretty. Okay, so we got our chili red down. Next, we're going to put in our detail with our cherry walnut. I'll peel this up. Okay. It's worth it, that extra little step I took in finding the top of my flower. It's really nice if you can take that extra moment and do that, because it makes this lining up process so much easier, guys. Did I tell you guys last week that the pearl inks came in? We're still listing them because we haven't started yet, to tell you the very truth, but there's 30 some colors to list, so we're avoiding it. But the pearl colors are in, and I've played with them a bit, and I can tell you that they're beautiful. Make sure as you're doing this that you're checking to make sure that your stamp is right side up. You can do that by rubbing your fingers across the rough side when it's on your platform, or when it's still on your table. Make sure the smooth side is towards you, because the one downside of a stamping platform is that it can't protect us from ourselves if we put the stamp on backwards, and then we just get a big blob. And do you know that happened to me the other night? What was I working on? I was working on these, wasn't I? Yes, I was.
Oh no, it was a tree.
Was it? Yeah, it was. I was working on what will be our first one back for stamping.
The 16th.
On the 16th. Next week, we are taking 1 week off while I work on my taxes. And our next Thursday session will be on the 16th, and that's when we're going to do the Lavinia style backgrounds in Christmas cards. They're not going to be all Lavinia stamps. In fact, we're using some hunky-dory stamps, but we're using Lavinia style techniques. Look what happens when we put that in there, guys. That cherry on there. Isn't that beautiful?
That's good.
We're getting a good shot of that now, Margie.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn this light on a little bit higher and
Okay.
focus it over here for you. Let's see if that
It's beautiful. I know a lot of you don't have your kits for this one yet. So when you, what was I gonna say? Oh, I'm trying to show you extra images so that when you're doing this later, that you'll be able to compare and see if you've got your colors dark enough and things. Okay, we got our beautiful flower down. I'm going to take a moment here and I'm going to put my flowers away because I keep losing stamps by not having them where I want them, and these cling stamps or the clear stamps, they stick to everything, and then I'm looking for them on the bottom of my boxes and everywhere. You guys ever do that? I seem to do that way too often because I don't stay organized while I'm working, but that's one of my goals is to get a little bit better about keeping my supplies actually on my sheets so that I don't have to go looking for them later. Okay, next up, let's put in some of our greenery. I'm going to stamp my background. Let me put my mask on first. And I'm going to stamp my background. I'll first mask my poinsettia, put a magnet in the middle of it to hold my mask where I want it to be. I think I also mentioned to you, and it's just a great way to do this. I mentioned making your masks out of Post-it notes, especially the ones that are adhesive all over the back. Those are great because they stick down by themselves. We don't even have to worry about putting a magnet on them. But we have the platform, we have the magnets, so we can definitely get the job done. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my greenery right over the top of my mask. Now the beauty of the mask, as you know from watching these and participating in these for the last few weeks, is that the mask will keep it from stamping over the top of that beautiful flower that we just made, and it will make it look as if this branch of foliage is coming in behind our flower. When you're doing layered stamping, you start at the front and you work your way back with masks, which just seems counterintuitive. It seems like we should start at the back and work forward, but that doesn't work so well. Because if we do that, we're covering up on our image in the foreground. No, in the background. We're covering up the background. If we started at the back and worked forward, which it seems that we should, we start in the front and then we work backwards. So it seems weird, but it's what works. Now, because we have this stamped in green, we're going to need a couple shots of this apple green in the background. So we're going to redo that. Say to you said you don't have a stamping platform yet. I strongly recommend it. And one I know that you can get really inexpensively in UK. I have to charge a little bit more for them because I have to import them across the pond, and those shipping rates are not inexpensive. But this Crafts 2 stamping platform is really a good one for a low price. I got it at Find It Trading. So consider that for you where you're already over there.
I think I like it the best out of all the ones that I've tried.
It really is. It's lightweight. It's convenient. They make a little case for this too that we have in the store, guys. I don't know if we ever showed them that, but maybe we should show them that on What's New Wednesday. Let's show them the case for the Stamp 2, or the Press to Impress. And we now have the replacement magnets for this. And they also make replacement craft foam. This foam right here.
That's good.
And I ordered in some packs of that too.
It's here.
Oh, it's here and listed, Brittany says. So good on you, Brittany. Okay, I'm going to next put down my second layer over my green. And actually, I need one more color here. I need my evergreen out too, because there's 3 layers to the foliage. Now, line these, take the moment, guys. Really get over that and line that up really, really good. It will be worth the effort, I promise you, because they just look so beautiful when it's really precise. So get right over the top, line that clear stamp up over your work. And I'm gonna get this is Rainforest green that we're using next, which is just 1 shade darker than the apple green. Now remember when I said that you actually can get a little bit of a halo on these thin edges? So it's worth it to maybe mop that up just a little bit around your image. I didn't think you could get one, but I proved that you can. Not necessarily what I want to do, but at least if I do this stuff in advance and then you guys follow me, you don't have to make all the same mistakes I make, which is nice. I like that I could save you a little grief. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and take that one off. And then our next one is going to be this funny looking, I just thought this was a piece of background foliage until I started working with these. This one right here could be a neat piece of background foliage. If you look at the shape of that, that could be really a neat sprig. But it also makes a great center to our holly sprig here. So I'm going to take just a moment and I'm going to line this up carefully. Now what you're getting with this holly is the stamp that we just did stamps beautifully on half of the leaf. It shows veining from the original. It covers all but half of the original veining from the apple green that we put down. And then when we're putting this centerpiece on in our evergreen color, it will put in the other side of the veining, which is fun. There it is. You already had it set out for me. You told me you did that, and then I promptly went looking for it.
That's okay.
Okay, I'm going to pick that up because I have it lined up just like I want it. I'm going to put my veining on in this evergreen color, being careful to just stamp straight down and not get a bunch of halo around it. I'm going to bring that down. And let's take a look at what we just got with our leaves on that side. Our holly leaves. It's pretty. It looks like this. At first you kind of catch your breath and you think, oh, I ruined my flower, because you forget it, you have a mask down. But this is what it looks like.
That would be me.
And then you peel this off and look how beautiful that is. By just taking the time to really line that up carefully, that's beautiful. And those three colors of green really play nicely together. I'm going to put my mask back on now that I've been able to admire my work. That is an important step, by the way, guys. As we're working, we have to stop and admire our work. Nothing wrong with that. We should appreciate the beauty of what we're creating. And if you have a family member that you can get to come in and do, ooh, ah, that's even better. I've trained my family very well. They all know. When I say, hey, you've got to come see this, they say, ooh, ah, just like that. And that's okay. But they've learned. They must do this for me because it's important. I'm going to use my double leaves this time, my holly leaves on the other side. Now, I could be using my poinsettia leaf. Why am I choosing to use my holly? I'm choosing to use my holly instead because the poinsettia leaf is only in one leaf, and I would have to do it like 3 or 4 times in a row because there's only one leaf and there's only one of them. Where the holly I can whip in and do 2 at a time and be done with that part fairly quickly. If you wanted to, you certainly could use that. We're also going to do this very, very pretty filigree work coming down from that. And I'm going to position this one on my mask, and let me show you here what I'm doing. I'm positioning this one on my mask. I really want both swirls to show there, so I'm positioning it so that it's kind of laying across my mask there, the tail of it. You see that? It's kind of hard to clear stamp, but...
No, it's actually showing up well with the
Is
light
it showing
change.
up well? Good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Excellent. I can't always see what you guys are seeing, guys, so you guys give me a shout out if it's ever not clear what we're trying to show you. Okay, I'm starting back with my apple green again. I'm going to ignore my filigree for the moment. I just positioned it there because I could. And I'm going to close my leaves. And I got my nice, oh, did I? Guess what I did, guys? Guess what I did?
Upside down.
I did it upside down. Do you believe it? I'm going to continue with my demonstration, but it's just that easy to get distracted and mess it up. Can you believe I did that?
Yes. I do it.
At least it's a
I'm sure
light
everybody
color.
does it.
Everybody does it sometime. I'm glad you saw me do it on camera so you know that I do it too, even though normally I stop and say, which way's your stamp going? Which way's your stamp going? But you know what I can do? And I can still rescue this image, and I think I will. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cut this out. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut out my image, and then I can cut off that extra green, and I can just layer it. So we'll have an extra little step in mind, and I'm only having to do that because I messed up and put my stamp on upside down. But I'm glad you saw me do it because, like I said, everybody does it. And I don't want you guys to think that just because I do a lot of this stuff that I'm better than you. I'm not. I just work stuff up before you do so I can make the mistakes in advance. I hope if you're working along that you got yours right. I'm sure you did because you guys are awesome. But I'm going to go ahead and put my other layers down there. Can't believe I did that. That annoys me. This time I have it going the right direction. I'm going to line it all up very precisely on my green because it will look great. And I'm just going to cut my image out when I'm done so I won't have wasted all my beautiful stamping time. See that blob I got there though? I think I want my, oh, I'm not even going to worry about the filigree because I'll put that on my background once I change this out. I just took my filigree off. If you're working along and you didn't mess up, you could go ahead and stamp your filigree in that color or in the evergreen. I don't want one more thing to cut out, so I'm not putting mine on yet. Sometimes I'm silly, guys. Okay, I like that. So I'm going to take that one off. We haven't even gotten to the part I think is more it's more challenging yet. That's probably why I got sloppy. Okay, I'm going to put my veining down, and it's going to cover the opposite sides of my holly. I'm going to put that in. Sometimes they really are happy mistakes, though. They really, truly are. If you were watching last time, or when I did the video for the Art Deco Christmas, if you haven't seen that, check that out. There's some really beautiful samples in that Art Deco Christmas. I really had fun playing with my paper layering on that one. And you can see some great ideas for how to layer your paper and really expand your kit. It was awesome. Sadie, I don't know if you've done the Art Deco Christmas from Hunky Dory Crafts, but I got 29 cards from a craft stack. I couldn't believe it. Could not believe it. Okay, I think I have everything on there that I'm going to cut out, so I'm going to go ahead and expose my stamped image, and it's really pretty, and I'm sorry I messed it up because it's beautiful, but I'm going to go ahead and now I didn't get my stamp or my mask in quite tight enough there either, but I'm going to use that nifty tool. We have some of these from Nouveau in our store, and I'm going to add a little bit of ink right here. See where my mask wasn't in quite close enough? I'm going to use a little bit of my Rainforest ink right there. I take this little blending brush. This one does not happen to be a Nouveau, but you can use these little blending style brushes to kind of pull that ink in closer. See that? And I'm going to cut mine out. It'll only take an extra minute or two, but I'm going to cut mine out. And then I'm going to re-ink my background so that I don't waste all of my stamping time with my blob in the background. But just a way you can save your images sometimes.
I think that when you make the mistake, it just seems like it's so much bigger and blatant than when anyone else would never know that it was a mistake.
Well, that's probably true. And because we had a light blended background, I probably could have put some heavier ink here and there and actually covered it up that way too. You know what I mean? I could have made some darker patches of the green and probably covered that this was an error too. But I'm just going to cut it out and make my card three-dimensional. Which will work great. It'll be pretty. So,
Besides, three-dimensional is kind of fun.
yeah. So I'm not sad. While I'm cutting this out, take a look, guys, at this card right here. Hopefully you can see it well. This card, can you see that well on the camera?
Up a little
Margie?
bit higher. There. Too high now. There. Perfect.
Take a look at this one. I'm going to move it back and forth just a little bit so you can kind of see the shimmer. This one was done using the new shimmer inks in pinks. You guys almost got pink poinsettias, and then we kind of had a group powwow and said, no, we think we want red. We wanted traditional red poinsettias. But you can see what it looked like done in the pinks. And that one, you could take that one as an inspiration piece on how to build out your image and make a much larger card if you wanted to. We hadn't done anything with stamping and using background papers with our stamping. And I thought this was a nice opportunity to make a couple smaller cards during class that we could use background papers with and just show how nice it can look to have a background paper, use up some of the papers you have in your stash. I know you have them, I have them, all crafters have them. We have those we have all kinds of paper in our collections that we had great ideas for at the time, then we lost the idea and we have it years later. Dig those stashes out and take a look at what you've got in some of those stashes. Some of those stashes, and it doesn't have to be holly. This one I gave you in our kits is holly, but it doesn't have to be holly. You can get some beautiful backgrounds just out of, mixed colors on a page. You can get some beautiful backgrounds. If you mat it, you could use striped paper or pattern paper in the background. Just creating a mat out of gold or a mat out of even white or red. And then you can put it on all kinds of background pattern papers. Don't put your flower directly, most of the time I don't advise putting it directly on top of a pattern because you can kind of lose some of your detail that way. But cut it out in a topper, then mat that topper, and then put it down on your background detail, and it could be really pretty. So just some thoughts. Did some of you guys see the shimmer ink, Mirri? That's new. It's brand new. It's from Hunky Dory. They have all the same colors that we have in the base set and a new pearlescent ink.
I've been waiting 2.5 weeks since I found out that it was coming.
I got it. It'll be next, guys.
You hear this debate happening. Margie says, I've been waiting 2.5 weeks, and Brittany says, I got it. It's going up next.
I will help you find a place for it.
The nice thing, they did two nice things in the production of the shimmer inks. They kept the price really reasonable, which I appreciated. I don't know if it's exactly the same price, but I believe it is. I'm not sure. It's within cents if it's not exactly the same. And so that was pretty cool, I thought. And then the boxes for those inks are white. where the boxes for these are all black. They're white, so it's very easy at a glance to see the difference in the inks. And I don't know how much it picks up on camera, the shimmery colors, but you really can see the shimmer in your stamped images, which is beautiful. They are a little bit, because they have the shimmer powder in it, I'm going to call them a little bit more, maybe the word is pastel, just a little bit more pastel
bit
tone
lighter.
because of the white shimmer.
If you want to show them side by side.
Yeah.
Say what now?
That green
Oh.
in your leaf is apple green.
Oh, okay, cool, I'll
So
do
is
that.
that one.
Okay. I think you gave me one already. Let me look in my box, so I don't have to open another.
I'm not telling you to open it. I'm telling you to show them.
Oh, I was gonna open it.
No.
Brittany
Pick a different
color. Brittany gets after me because I think that I need to claim supplies as my own by opening them and using them to show you things. And she says, "Oh no, you don't have room for everything you want." Yes, if you think it's tempting to shop in our store, try living with this store. Because I have all my favorite things here. I bought them because I thought they were fabulous. And yeah, she won't let me have one of each, guys. Didn't you think that's narrow-minded?
I believe that I saw her bat your hand last week.
It could have happened. It could have happened. She saves me from myself, my niece. She really does. She was teasing my daughter earlier and saying, "I have to pick on you in preparation to pick on Aunt Debbie." Because it's her job to keep me walking straight and narrow. That is a tough job, I gotta say, guys. That is not an enviable position to have to try and keep me straight. But Uncle Bryce has figured it out. Sort of. I let him think he has, anyway. See, that's the trick. It's not whether or not they modify your behavior, it's whether or not you let them think they've modified your behavior.
And now it's out if he watches this video.
He's not going to watch it. It's a live stream. He doesn't have to edit it. So he probably won't watch it. He won't know that my secret is out. He might. I don't know. He might. But yeah, that's the deal. Don't you guys agree? We got to let them think they've modified our behavior. Okay, I've got my flower all cut out. Thank you for your patience while I correct my error. Now I need another piece of stamping card. I gotta create my background really quickly. It won't take me but a second to do that, so let me get my stamping card out here again. I'm going to get my sponge. I'm going to get my apple green. I'm going to lay down my background color again. Sometimes I'm just silly, guys. Sometimes really silly. Sometimes less silly. Always silly. Okay, laying down my color again in my background. I really, really like what you can do with these inks in laying down color and blending your colors. These do a nice job. While I'm doing this, let me show you. This is, you want to show them, Margie?
Yeah,
Margie's going to come show you while I
can do
continue
that while
blending
you
my background here.
back it up.
These are my backgrounds that I'm starting with. I'm just kind of playing with it right now. But I said we're going to do Lavinia style backgrounds and Christmas cards. Here's a couple I have started just for my inspiration to get going with that project. And these are all inks you have in your box right now if you've been collecting the inks from week to week. If you haven't, you'll want to buy a few extra colors in the purples and blues and greens especially. How about in this week's newsletter after this video today, I will give you a list of the colors I now have in my Apollo box. You remember I said that I have my Apollo box. I don't want to use anything that hasn't been used in one of our classes so that we are all on the same page in terms of you having the materials available to do the same things that I'm doing on screen. So if you're getting all the kits, then you'll have all the same materials I have. Ooh, that looks pretty.
And that last background, I tried to tilt it so that you can see it actually has a shimmer to it because it's a mica powder that's going over the top.
And when we do that, guys, you are going to get your own spritzer of mica powder. So, yay. Oh, we won't tell Bryce. Good. Mary, thanks. It'll just be our secret. I love it. Okay, I'm going to use my mask now. I'm going back to using my mask. And I'm going to cover up my flower here. This is going to be interesting because one thing I know for sure is that it's not going to want to get in close. Let me think how I can do this. I know how I can do this. I'm going to take my cardstock out and just use my mask to show the position of where I want this to go. That's what I'm going to do. If I leave my flower in and mask around it, I'm going to have that halo around it, right? Where the vine couldn't go. But because I am going to lay down my flowers next, I'm going to go ahead and put this vine in where I wanted it before. And I'm just going to use my mask to keep that off of my background. It really doesn't matter since I'd be putting my flower over the top of that stem, but just for the sake of argument, let's put that out there like that. I'll just use my mask as kind of a placeholder for my flower.
That's a good way to do it.
And I'm going to clean up a little bit of my overlap because I know these tinier stamps can get a halo. Yes, I've learned that. There's that beautiful vine. So now I'm going to lift this and I'll put my flower in there. And I like the way this looks. This is going to be fun. Okay, I'm going to put am I going to put foam squares down yet? Not quite yet. I'm just going to let that sit there. I'll put a magnet on it to hold that in place while I'm working. And I'm going to stamp in my Merry Christmas. Really, I am. As soon as I find it, there it is. I'm going to stamp in my Merry Christmas down here below. Now I'm going to use my lid of my stamp positioner to make sure that that looks nice and straight. So I'll pick it up and then I'm going to look along the lines on the top of the lid and make sure that that looks nice and straight. And I can straighten it a little bit by using those lines across where the bottom of my words go to make sure that I like the positioning. Bring it back down, still looks good. I'm going to put my words in, I think, in this evergreen color. I'm stamping straight down so I'm not getting a halo. If I did, it's no great shake, so I'm just going to take my wet wipe and go around it. I'm going to bring that down. And there we go. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay. I'm going to put some foam squares under mine because as long as I had to cut it out and put it there, I need to make it look intentional. Foam squares. There they are. So I'm going to put some of these 3mm foam squares on the back of mine. It may end up being a happy mistake, Mary, because I like the way you say that. If you guys haven't had a chance to look at that Art Deco Christmas yet, take a minute and do that. I really am proud of the way those cards came out. I really, really enjoyed the paper layering with that. I used lots of gold and lots of black mirror board. Worth the investment in both cases. I think a single pack of gold, a single pack of black could get you taken care of. You need 5 or 6 sheets probably to do the 29 cards that I did. When I sat down to work on that, I started at 10 o'clock at night, and I thought that it would take, I'd have a dozen or so cards, and I thought I could kick those out in, a few hours. And then I started working on them, and I realized that with all the supplies they give you in one of those craft stacks, 29 cards, guys, I couldn't believe it. 29, that's a lot.
I love those craft stacks.
That was a lot. That's the first time I've done one of the craft stacks. All this time we've been selling them, and it's the first time I pulled one out and used it. There's mine. I hope you guys are loving yours. That is, and it was so fun. They really, honestly, that Art Deco style, while I can appreciate the beauty of it, it isn't really my style normally. But boy, I did like
It looks
the
so
way they
rich.
turned out, huh?
They look so rich.
It does.
Rich is part of.
It does. Glamorous.
Yeah.
The whole glamour of the era. Okay, I'm going to put my dazzles on. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut this down. You should have some dazzle stickers in your kit. And I want to put down a bunch of berries in the center of mine. I'm going to get my tweezers here. I'm going to put down, I think I used 7 berries in the center of my poinsettia. And then I used a couple of berries on the outside. Now remember, lots of people say, how do you handle those tiny, tiny stickers? What I like to do is actually, I peel off the outer layer of my stickers, and then I pull them off on my finger. I just bend my sheet, and I pull them off on my finger. I find that much easier to get them off my finger than I do to get them off one at a time off the page. I'm going to put one berry in the center, and then I'm just going to surround that with other berries to get a nice, full, pretty, sparkly center in my flower. I could do this with glitter if I wanted to. I absolutely could do this with dots of glitter. I just kind of like what the holographic berries bring in. One of our customers said to me, how can we use so many of the holographics, because to her they were a little bright and they kind of took over. I'm kind of a glitter and glamour kind of gal. I like the shiny accents. I like the extra glitz. If you don't, it's okay. Use a little glitter, use a little nouveau in a less bright thing. She had some really good suggestions for me in the same email, but one of my thoughts in that email was, nah, not changing that. I will probably always use that, but you have lots of choices you can use if that's not your style.
She even has glitter jokes, guys.
Oh, I do.
Glitter jokes.
I do. I sent this out to all of my friends. I saw this. My friend saw, my cousin actually saw it on Facebook and sent it to me. It was trying to explain COVID in crafters' terms, and it says, if you have 9 people crafting and 1 is glittering, how many people will have glitter on their projects? All of us, right? Yeah, that's kind of the way the COVID spreads
If you're
too.
involved, it definitely.
If I am involved, there will be glitter everywhere. It's my way. And Brittany so well knows because she often comes through and restores order when I'm finished. And yeah, there is glitter everywhere there could be glitter. I got it in my hair, I've got it on my clothes. It's everywhere. How pretty is that? Let's cut it down. Let's get our card ready here. So you have in your kit, you have a card blank. I know I said I wasn't going to send you card blanks, but sometimes you just need them to do what we're doing. So I gave it to you anyway. So I'm going to cover my card. Remember that when we cover our card, we're just going to put down 3 rows of tape. I use finger lift tape for everything. Not everything, but most things. I do love my finger lift tape. So much better than a glue runner or a tape runner. Because it never jams. I never have to take the thing apart and unravel it to try and save the tape when I mess up the tape runner. I have very little waste and landfill. I just have the paper peel where I'm taking it off. I can always tear my tape in the center and pull it both directions to make it easy to take off. Then I'm going to cover my card with this pretty gold Mirri. Remember that when you use the full sheets of Mirri like this, you can actually get 4 cards. If you're using European A6, you can get 4 cards from one sheet of Mirri, which is pretty cool, very sweet. But you can do that. I don't have my long blade scissors handy here, so I'm going to cut this today with my short blade. Which is no deal. Here, Margie just handed me scissors, but I already started the job with my little blade, so I'll just wrap it up. There we go. Okay, so I've got my card covered, as easy as that. I just put my tape down, stick my Mirri on top, flip it over, and cut around the edge. I don't do measuring. Why would you want to do that? That is just not fun. I do see that I have a little bit of excess there. I'm going to trim off. Okay, like that. I still have a little bit of a rough edge there. I'm going to go to my paper cutter and I'm just going to make that go away. Okay, there we go. Now I like it. I'm going to, this is 4 1/4 by 5 7/8. I'm going to make my background paper then. I want about maybe a 1/4 inch border. So I'm going to make my background paper 5 5/8 to start with by 3 7/8 to start with, and then we'll see how that matches up. That looks good. There, I got the nice, so it's more like 1/8 inch borders, but I did like the way that it looks, so I'm going with that. And now we're going to use our tape flags. In case, Sadie, you haven't seen this before, here's a really neat trick for you. You might have seen it before. Put down 1 row of tape on either side of your card. You don't need to worry about putting one in the middle. Put one on each side. And then rub your tape down good. And we're going to lift the corner. Forgot to turn my phone off, guys.
Almost asked. Almost.
Okay, we're gonna pull down 1 inch of tape on either side, just like that. See that? And then we're going to line this up on our card. Now we only have a tiny bit of adhesive showing so that it's very repositionable right now. I get it right where we want it. We have a nice border showing all the way around. When I've got it right where I want it, I pull my tape out using those tape flags. And I have a nice border all the way around my card. Next up, I'm going to cut down my image. Let me see how much I used here. I made it 3 inches wide, and I made it just a little over 4 inches long. So I'm going to make this 3 inches wide. I'll go cut from the bottom, and I'm gonna leave about not much to start with. And I'm gonna go back in. And I do like the size of that. That looks good. And now I'm going to make this just about 4. Yeah. If it's okay if it's a little longer. I'm gonna make this 4 1/4, I think, to start with. We'll see how that looks. Is that about the same size I had before? It sure is. Okay. So now I'm going to mat this piece on some gold. Just layer it up on some gold. And I could measure this piece and center it, or I can just lay it down on my mirror board, and I can cut around it, which is what I'm going to do. I want to move on to our Holly card here, because that's got some little idiosyncrasies in it. How am I doing for time, Margie?
We'll probably be a little over today.
We're going to be a little over today? Okay. All right. Well, we're going to be a little over today, guys, because I took that little side route of having to cut my image out. But you guys will forgive me, won't you?
Sadie likes your tape flags.
I love that technique, Sadie. It saves a lot of time in having to recut your toppers because you get all done and then it doesn't center quite right, you know. So I just hand cut that by eye. I'm going to put this on here, and we're finished. Now I did, on my original, I put this down and just a little to the left, just to be a little artsy. And I took some of my medium size, do I have enough medium? I don't. Enough medium. Oh, that's okay. I can still show you what I was doing. Oh, I do. I do have enough medium on here. I took some of my holographic dots and I came down 3 on the side. Come on. Have to move that one. Oh, Deborah, I squished that one. I'm glad I have an extra. Okay, let's try and do better this time. Okay, I came down 3. Excuse me?
She's got
Oh, I wiggled the table and knocked over your stacks. Brittany's playing Jenga over here with
somebody ordered too many.
with the pearl pads. Okay, I just used 5 dots and created 3 down and 3 wide, reusing that corner dot. See that, guys? Okay, and then I brought this down and just a little extra to the left, just to be a little artsy. And I'm going to put this up on some foam squares, and this card is done. That paper's pretty, isn't it? Yeah. That's some that Brittany and I picked up when we were planning way ahead for the iris folding project. And we ended up not using this paper in iris folding. And I was sitting here making these Holly and poinsettia cards, and I looked over, there was that stack of paper sitting there, and I thought, oh, that would be really pretty with my poinsettias. And it's all history now. That's how these choices get made. Sometimes it's just, oh, that'd be nice.
What you have?
And away we go. Okay, putting my foam squares down. This is going to be really pretty. I actually don't regret the happy error of messing up. Not only did you get to see me mess up, but you got to see me resolve it, so that part was good. And we didn't have to throw out our work, which was good. And it turned out really pretty with that extra layering. I like that.
And we'd never know it was a mistake.
And you'd never know it was a mistake. Okay, let's move on. We've got our poinsettia done. Next we're going to do our holly. This is a little image, you know, in the greater scheme of things. We're stamping something fairly small. But I got to tell you, this one was a little bit challenging. And I want to do that together with you so you can benefit from my learning. I'm going to need an extra piece of 6x6, Margie. You gave me two, but I
No, I bought you another one.
oh, here it is. You're right. You're right. Just because I messed up that first one.
Yep, I ran and got it.
Okay. Let's go ahead and put some green down in our background. Does it have to be green? Could it be pink? Could it be some other color? It absolutely could be some other color if we were inclined. I'm inclined to do light green. And you know, you can mix these colors too. I just am opposed to the notion of stamping just on white card and leaving it white most of the time. Not all the time. There's no hard and fast rules with me and my stamping. I just do whatever my heart desires. But I do like adding, you know, adding something to break up the starkness of just white in the background. We talked a couple weeks ago about the difference between stamping card and inking card. As it turns out, these essential stacks, that's where I'm getting your 6x6 pages for these kits. These essential pads are Ink Me. I learned that. So it's probably one reason why they take the ink so well, is that it's paper formulated for some of these techniques we're using. I didn't know that, it just was the right size. Because I kind of, oops, I just ruffled it a little bit, but I kind of use what's available. Okay, I got plenty of green on there now. Ruffled my paper a little, but it's going to be fine. Okay. All right, just bend it back the other way a little bit. We're fine, good to go. Okay, now I made myself a list. Where is it? Here it is. Look. First, they put in the light green base.
Hey, I think that's my mom.
Hello, Glenda.
Hi, Mom. If you're not my mom, then I'm sorry.
That's your mom. Hello, Glenda. It's nice to see you there. Welcome, welcome, friend.
Don't buy the pack. It's already been purchased for you.
Okay. Let's do... I miss you, Glenda. I want to see you when we can. This COVID stuff, you know, it's irritating. We got to do what we got to do, and we will continue being safe because it's just the only adult and responsible thing to do. But, man, it goes on, doesn't it? Anyway, enough bemoaning that. We're here to have fun. So, here we go. We're going to, I put my leaves down. I found my position with my stamp positioner. I'm pushing my card up into the corner as I usually do. My stamp is right side up. If I did that twice in one video, I'd have to give up this venture. I can't make that same mistake again in this video. That's the toughest part of using a stamp platform. The only tough thing, and I messed it up. But hey, that's a little bit, I've got a little bit sharper angle there than I had last time, and I want a little less angle on it, I think. Yeah, I like that better. Okay, well, I got it all over my fingers, so I guess I'll put some more ink on it. Okay. I want my branch kind of laying out to the side so I have room to put my sentiment over the top. I got my first layer down. That looks beautiful, actually, but I'm going to give it another layer anyway. That looks gorgeous. These little fine stems in here are beautiful, but managing those stems while we stamp our other things is challenging. Okay, second, our next thing we're going to do is wipe off this holly, put it away, and I'm going to get my berries out. So I got my stamp sheet here, I'm putting my holly away. And the berries I want are going to be this little cluster of berries and this little cluster of berries. Is that the ones I want to use? I believe it is. Yes. Okay. I'm going to put my berries on top here such that my red berries will mostly cover, they will mostly cover over the stem. I'm going to show you close up if I can where I've positioned that. Can you see that? I have the cluster of 3 berries and then I have the berries that are spaced out a little bit further. Oops. And I put my cluster of berries kind of right in between those leaves. And then I positioned this so that I have 2 of my berries on one side of the stem and I have 1 berry on the other side of my stem. And I'm going to stamp that right in there. So I'm picking it up from that location. I'm going to stamp that with my lightest color, my camellia pink. I have a little bit of a halo around there. I'm going to clean up only because these are tiny stamps. If it was a bigger stamp, I wouldn't worry about it, but it's tiny stamps, you kind of want to clean up those halos a little bit. And I did get my berries right where I want them. See that? That looks good. And next, I'm going to do my next berries over the top of that, making sure my stamp is right side up. You know what? That's actually not what I want. I see in my notes I went from I started with number 2 stamp, which is this one, and then I went straight to number 3. So this is the one that I want. Now this is a weird looking little dude. It looks like little pinwheels or something that are cattywampus. That's what we're going to use. And this one is a really delicate one to lay out. Take your time and get those little pinwheels right where you want them. What we're doing, guys, is we're stamping this dark red in around these berries. And this is a really precise maneuver here. So take your time, position them carefully, get them right where you want them.
Bye, Avis.
Oh, she had to head to bed?
Yeah.
Okay, bye. Duty calls, okay. All right, I'm gonna bring my red down, my cherry red. I'm stamping it lightly on there. I'm bringing this down, we're holding our breath, and it turns out right where I want it, and it did. Here we go. See that? How we get those highlights in there? Next.
It's amazing how perfectly they turn out.
we're going to mask those berries, guys. So I'm going to take this out for a second. I'm going to create myself a little mask for my berries. Look at those magnets all stack up on me. They are strong magnets on these things. I only need a little tiny mask. So I'm going to get the full image of my berries. I'm going to set them in the corner here. I'm going to pull that down. I'm going to put some dark on there so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to create a mask for my berries. I don't even really care that I have a shadow around it this time, because even if I did manage to stamp it, I'll prove you actually can get a little bit there. Maybe I still didn't. I still didn't get any there, but you can. I did manage in one of my projects to get it in there with one of the little narrow stamps. But mostly you don't get halos. I'm going to cut these out really quick. Now, if you didn't want to do all of this with the masking of the berries and stuff, you could use some red dazzle stickers and they'd look great with the holly. Just focus on stamping the 3-layer holly, which is beautiful, and put some red dazzles on it. But for the sake of demonstration, that might be what I'm doing, because we've already discussed my need for glittery things. Even though this is all off one stamp, I'm cutting 2 different masks out of this one stamp, because it's easier to position them. So I'm cutting out the berries, cutting out the berries. I am not cutting the berries that are 3 separate pieces. I'm just making one berry cluster out of that, guys. I'm leaving it attached in the very center. Okay, so I got my 3 little berries there. I got my 1 cluster of berries here. We started doing this video series with these Crafts 2 stamp positioners, and we've sold a few of them, a few of them to those of you who are the viewers in class, but we sold out very quickly. We've got a lot of people looking at these videos after the fact, and we literally sold out of them on Amazon, but I have another batch coming. They'll be here in a few days. That particular distributor's really fast. So we have more of them on the way. It's a good stamp positioner. I can see why. And I've talked so highly of it in these classes. But we have a lot of people who watch the classes and then maybe they're not totally familiar with our stores, so they're not sure. Hello, Annette! They're not positive about buying from us. So they buy it from us via Amazon, but once they get to know us, they'll know that we're reliable and that they can trust us. Because we care a lot about doing the right things and doing things right. We won't always be 100% accurate, because nobody can be, but if we mess up, we'll take care of it right away. And we fix things. Okay, I've got my berry masks on. Now I want my 2nd layer of green for my holly. So as soon as I figure out what I did with that, there it is. I will put my 2nd layer of holly on. I'll be lining that up over my holly leaves. And see how these stems go right over the berries? That's why we wanted to mask these berries, because the stem goes right over the top of our pretty berries. Now these little tiny masks, because they're not on Post-it paper, Might pick up and travel a little bit as you're trying to use the masks. Sometimes they peel off on your stamp. Just pick them up and move them back. If it lifts when your stamp positioner lifts, I don't think I'd worry too much about that, because if it stays on the stamp, it's going to mask that area anyway. You know what I mean? So if it stays on the stamp, it's really not a problem. And matching that little stem on here is important, but not necessarily easy. Because you don't want to have a bunch of extra stems hanging down from a single stem of holly, right? So one of the more challenging aspects of matching this one is to match that stem. Okay, I think I have everything where I want it. My stamp is going the correct direction. I'm going to pick it up with my stamp positioner. I'm going to, I did leave my papers, but lifted them and dropped them again, so I reposition my berry masks just a little bit. I'm going to put my Rainforest green ink on my stamp. I'm going to clean up just a little bit around that stem because I don't want any halo around my stem, and it's so thin there. And I'm going to pull my holly down. And that looks good. I like it. So I'm going to take this off. I'm going to put my berry masks back in place. I ordered myself some Post-it note all over stickies because I didn't have any. I looked around, I didn't have any. So I ordered me some. So jobs like this will stick in place and stay there. Next, I want to put on my third layer of my holly, and as we've discussed, that's this little ferny looking thing. This funny looking thing here. So I'm going to wipe off my holly color, my Rainforest green, and put that back on my stamp sheet. I'm going to line up my third layer of my holly. You see why I call this precision stamping today? It really is. And a precision stamping. But it's so, so pretty. And once you've taken the time to create the masks and stuff, it really doesn't take all that long to position them and stamp them. Putting my berries back, my mask back in place because I don't want these stems going over where my berries are. I'm going to put my evergreen color on, which is part of my kit. There we go. I'm going to pull it down. And that looks good. That looks really good. Peel that off. I'm done with my berries for now. You know what, guys? Once you've made these masks, just stick them in your stamp pack. You can use this over and over and over again. With this, my berries, my holly stems, anything else that I mask, I can use that over and over again. So just keep those, and I just store them with my stamp sets right in the sleeve with my stamps, which is a good way to go. Okay, now I'm going to have to pull this off again, and I'm going to have to make another mask. This time, in order to stamp my swirls around this, I have to make a mask for my holly. Because I don't want my red swirls to go all over my holly leaves. See that? So I'm going to make a mask for my holly.
She did say that you were going to be masking experts by the end of this one.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Okay, I'm going to use my big holly leaf. I'm just going to pull this down, pick it up, put some ink on it. And one thing I am going to do when I cut out my mask this time is I'm going to make the stem extra wide. I'll show you why. Something I learned making this first one. It didn't bother me that it did this, but see that little bit of red that shows? Now it just kind of looks like I had more than one stem coming down from my swirly. But I can cut my mask a little bit extra wide and actually keep that from happening. See what I mean? This little extra red I got here. So I'm going to make my stem just a little bit extra wide there. And then I won't get any of that. And when you're cutting these holly out, you don't have to be super precise in terms of cutting all of those tiny, tiny points. Just come out just a little bit extra, you know. You don't have to be super precise, but where you have big indents like I have on this side, go ahead and cut those out. But the little tiny indents on the little leaf, I just cut that kind of rounded. It doesn't take that long. It seems like it would, but it really doesn't take that long to cut out all these masks. And remember, once I have them, they're mine forever. I don't have to make them over and over and over again. So it's kind of worth the time because next time it will be faster when you do use it. But I'm not super duper precise when I cut these masks out. I just want to protect my beautiful holly leaves we just made from getting those red swirls on them. And yet the red swirls are absolutely worth it, I think. It really sets the card off to have those little squigglies coming out from under my holly leaves. So taking the time to cut this mask is worthwhile. Yeah, that little tiny accent to the berries really does add life to them, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. I think it does too. And like I said, you know, cutting a mask for the berries, that's not necessarily, you know, the most enjoyable part of this. But once you create it, you don't have to create it again. I was going to have you guys cut all your masks up front so it wouldn't feel like we were constantly masking stuff. If you do want, if you're not working with me now and you're going to do this later, it's worth it while you're doing it just to cut all your masks at one time. It really is. So here's my mask. You can see that it's not totally and completely precise. You can see little bits of white here and there. That's okay. It's absolutely okay. I'm going to put it on the right direction though. That would be good. I'm going to push this back up into my corner now. I'm going to lay my mask over the top. And I'm going to look at things and say, is everything pretty much protected? And I think the answer is yes. So I'm actually going to hold this down just a little bit with my magnets. And I'm going to get my swirlies out. Here's my one swirly. And this is the one for which we were trying to protect our leaves, or our stem, right? And I'm going to come in here. I got to go up a little bit with my magnet. I'm going to come in here just like that and position that little red swirl. Take my holly off of my lid here. Glenda, if you haven't used one of these stamp positioners or you haven't used it for a while, this is the coolest tool around for stamping. It just really is. The real claim to fame here is if something does not stamp exactly where you want it the first time, that's not true. If it doesn't stamp completely the first time, you can pick it up and go right back into exactly the same place. It's beautiful.
And don't forget, you already have one.
There we go. That's pretty. I had a little bit of grain left on my stamp. I didn't get it cleaned off good, so I'm going to give this just a little bit more red. And I may even just go with a deeper red if it's still showing a little bit of green trail where I had it before. Oh no, that looks good now. That red looks fine. Okay, it's just going to be a little bit deeper red because I did that. And I'm going to wipe that off with my baby wipe. So next time I don't do that. And I'm going to get my other swirly out. There's 2 of them on your sheet. This is really a pretty stamp set. Probably the most detailed stamp set I've worked with, I think, in terms of getting everything, masked off and that kind of thing. It's really detailed, but it's the detail that makes it absolutely impeccably beautiful. I think that's too high. Let's go back in here. The last time I kind of came in between these leaves, and I think that would look good again, so I'm going to bring that down a little bit more. Pick that stamp up with my lid. I'm going to come in with my chili red. I'm going to put some ink on it. I'm going to make sure I don't have too much halo around it because this is a fairly narrow stamp. And I'm going to come down. And remember, I'm stamping over the top of my mask for my holly. You can see with that how that mask is protecting our stamped images by the way these swirls are going all over, huh? And I'm going to pull off my mask. And what I have underneath is absolutely beautiful, clean, well defined. Look how pretty that is. Isn't that gorgeous? So next, I do see a tiny little smudge there in green. I'm not cutting this one out. What I might do though is what I threatened to do last time and put a little bit of darker green, little smudges here and there in my background. And that will cover that. I need my sentiment stamp. I'm going to do Let Your Heart Be Light. I can tell you, if you were sitting, at least with me, if I was sitting and stressing about anything or, just being just kind of agitated, sitting down and doing this kind of precision work would put me right in the zone. I would just be, zen after a few minutes of doing this kind of detail work. It would just do it for me. I'm lifting up my sentiment. I'm looking on my grid lines up here, up on top, to make sure I like the position of my words and that they're going to be straight. I'm going to look again. I like it. So remember, Glenda, when we used to stamp with those acrylic blocks and you get all done with your image, you go to put the sentiment on and then the sentiment messes up. You just only get half the words or something, and then you try and line it up straight and it never lines up straight, and then you end up feeling like you messed up your project. With this, you don't have to worry about that because we bring it down. First of all, it stamps really, really well the first time. But if I had only gotten half of my image, I'd ink it and I'd bring it right back down again because it's going to stamp in exactly the same place. Isn't that cool? I'm so glad you joined us today. Okay. All right. I'm going to put just a little bit more green ink, like I said I was going to. I'm going to just swirl just a little bit more here and there. I'm going to tap it off on a spare piece of paper. And look, that little smudge just kind of disappears. That's fun. I probably could have done this with the one that I ended up cutting out. I also like putting it in a little bit darker and letting the light kind of having a little bit more light right around the image itself, which kind of sets your image out. And see how it's a little bit lighter right around my words. Come in just a little darker around my words, around the outside. And then you're going to have that kind of lighter image on the inside, a little bit darker around the edges.
It really highlights it.
And our stamped image is done. We'll wait and put the glitter on after we put it down on our card. So let's get our other card blank out. How am I doing for time, Margie?
You're at 105 minutes.
I'm at 105 right now, so I'm about 15 minutes over right now. But I can construct this quickly. This one I did not put mirror board down on the background of my card. I just went straight to the background paper. This background paper, in case anybody's counting, I don't know if it's still available because hot off the press kind of ceased their wholesale operations, and a lot of their patterned papers and things have sold out. But this background paper that we're using was a hot off the press production. And I still have a lot of hot off the press products. Okay, I'm going to match up. I have lots of this paper, so I don't have to match too carefully to use my card covering technique. I can just lay my paper down on top of there and then just cut all the way around it. So I'm doing that in the interest of expediency. I'm going to cut it off. I love my long blade scissors for this job. You guys who have watched me know that. I use 8-inch scissors for most of my card covering because it's my feeling that the less wax you have to take at it, the more, the cleaner your edges are. So we've got my card covered. I had a piece of cutoff here a while ago that I could use for this underneath if I wanted to. See, you look at that and you say, but that's not very long. But I like to save my scraps. And all I would have to do with this if I wanted to is just cut it in half. Line up the two edges. Put it down there, and then when I put my topper over the top, who knows that it doesn't go all the way through. So that's, I do that a lot, guys. You may not see it on camera, but I do that a lot. So let's cut this down. I think I made this image like 3 by 3, but let's look and see if I didn't. I think, no, that's 3. No, it is 3 by 3. That's 3 by 3. So I'm going to cut this image I just made to a 3 by 3. I'm going to cut off some of my extra border to begin with. I'm going to cut off some extra off the top. And I just start working my way down until I kind of get it where I want it, guys. There's nothing absolutely scientific about the way that I go about reducing these images. I just start working my way down until I get it where I want it. This one actually trimmed up really nicely though, so I'm going to go ahead and take that. I have a piece of Mirri sitting here. I'm going to use that covering technique where I'm not measuring and centering. I'm just going to put this on my mirror board and I'm going to cut it out. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this down. We'll take a final look at our inspiration piece here when we finish assembling this card. Just talk about what we need to do the inspiration piece. And that's the one I did in pink, but you could absolutely do the same image in red. I will tell you that the little image here is just as much work, maybe even a little more work than the great big image was, because it is small and there's not a lot to look at. Everything that we put in here has to be pretty precise in the little one. But if you're doing a big one where the image is more spread out, there's a little bit more room for being able to, have some latitude. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to position these with a little glue so I can move them just a bit if I need to. Using my, maybe using my needle nose glue bottle. I've lost my pins. Yeah. Oh, Margie had some. Okay. I don't know what I'd do without Margie. She's the best, you know. Okay. Come on, there it goes. Sometimes these little needle nose glue bottles, because they do have such a very fine tip to them, they clog a little bit. And I just keep a wheel of pins handy and just unclog them with that. Just run a pin down it, and 9 times out of 10, no, 99 times out of 100, that's all it takes to make them work again. If you haven't used your glue bottle for a really long time, sometimes it can kind of set up in the cap itself. And when that happens, I take my cap off and let it stand in a glass of water for a while and then try it again. And usually, once in a while, it's just so set up that that cap is done. But most of the time, you can bring them back. Look how beautiful that is. And so simple, huh? You know what else would be really pretty? Run this mirror board through an embossing folder before we cut that strip. That'd be beautiful. It's beautiful anyway, but it would add just another little dimension there. Okay, foam squares. I found them. Boy, I lose stuff, guys.
You know it's somewhere right in front of you. You just don't know where.
Yes.
Always.
Because I think they get up and hide. That's my theory. They get up and hide.
I
Because it
think
couldn't
there's
be.
craft elves
It
or
couldn't
craft
be
fairies.
craft fairies. That
Yes.
could be it. They're also the ones that spread that glitter.
Oh, okay.
Brittany doesn't believe that guy. She thinks her aunt's just messy. Can you imagine? Can you imagine, really? Okie dokie. We got our topper done. We're sticking it down to our beautiful card. And I tell you, putting the glitter on here is just the right touch. Now, if you got stickles, feel free to use that. I'm going to use my little detail glue bottle, and I'm going to put some fine lines in, and I'm just going to put just a touch of glitter. Now, what I did with mine, and I can show you here, what I did with mine is I tried to come just below, I don't know why, it just was my kind of focal point. I came just below the light veining. So I'm going to come in here, and I don't need a lot of glue, guys. I only need a little to do what I want to do, because I want my glitter lines to be really fine and delicate, because my image is fine and delicate, isn't it? So I'm going to just pick up a little glue and come right under that veining. Why under that side, not the other side? I don't know, because it's the side I chose. But I only did one side. And I used just the finest little lines. If you're wondering where I got this nifty little glue bottle, we have them in the store. They sell for $2. You can find these from Quilt Creations and other places for $5 to $6, but why would you? We brought them in from China, and they're really pretty nice little glue bottles. And they're very inexpensive. In your kit, we gave you some gold and some red glitter, just in case you wanted to glitter up anything else. Why? Because it was there. And like I said, Stickles works well for this if you prefer. Oh, by the way, I think Brittany is unloading some in the boxes that she's unloading. I believe we have a resupply of Stickles in. Oh, she just put them in. We have a resupply of Stickles in all the white and clear iridescent colors, because those are super popular as you guys begin making your Christmas cards. Tap that off a little bit. When it dries, which won't take too long, I'll take my glitter brush and I will brush that off, and it will look like this. I'm going to finish my card by taking a couple of these little stars off the star stickers that we included in your kit. And I'm going to put one star in the upper corner, one in the lower corner, and my creation will be finished. And again, I got to brush that off, but it will look just like this when it's finished. How pretty is that? Now let's take a look at our inspiration piece. I know that we're running over. I'm not going to keep you much longer. In doing our inspiration piece, we already pretty much know what we're going to have to do with some of this. I am going to advise you to have not less than 2 of the masks cut out for your flowers. You're going to need 2 of them. And when you're working on this side, this foliage and this foliage at the top, they're going to be on these flowers. And when you're working on these, you're going to be over here. I don't think you actually have to go to the work of cutting out 3 of them. You can just reposition them to the other side. What else do I need to tell you about? See here? You get away with more. If this was all on that little card, this certainly isn't the first thing you see when you look at this. But I get away with more on this big card because there's just visually a lot more to look at. But with the little card, everything had to be very precise. So this is way easier than you think it's going to be. Again, I made this with 3 colors of ink using the pearlescent inks. You could absolutely do this with the 3 reds we just did. On these leaves down here, just so you can see what it looks like, I did these just using 2 of the stamps. I used the apple green for the background, and then I used the Rainforest green on top. These leaves over here, I used the dark veining as well, so you can kind of compare those and see what you think. I did my swirls in green this time. Here's some of the poinsettia leaves. Now the poinsettia leaves, just the way they position in the stamps, this is not over stamping, and I didn't stamp with the back of my green. This is just the way the poinsettia stamps look, the leaves. They're just a little bit more
Full.
They're full, and the green is just quite a lot wider than the dark green. So you don't get the precision with those that you get with the holly. If you prefer the precision of the holly, just substitute the 2 pieces of holly up there. You know, the double piece of holly. So there was our inspiration piece. I'd love it if somebody would stamp this up and post one on the website or on Facebook. I had some feedback from a customer this week that said, I'm trying to put my cards up on Facebook, but it won't let me start a post. That is true. One of the security measures we have on our website is that it won't let you initiate a post, but you can add to any post that's already out there. So just take one of our class posts or any other place where there's already a stream going and go ahead and add your comments and your cards. Everybody's used to looking at that. So just take any one of the more recent ones and post your cards. It's really easy to do for those of you who haven't posted to Facebook. You're going to go in, you're going to write your comment, and when you use the return key, it's going to post your comment. And actually, that's not true. You'll use the return key, you'll go ahead and put your comment in, then hit the little plus sign where it shows photo. Hit the little plus sign, and you can load it up, your photo up onto Facebook. And then there's a post button down below that will post both your comment and your pictures. It's super easy to do. Go ahead and post some of your samples, guys. I love to look at what you're creating.
Why don't you make a feed that's like samples based off of previous STAM classes so that they all put them in the same spot?
That's a great idea. Brittany says, why don't I create a feed for you, a listing that is just your post off of our STAM classes? I'll do it. There will be a post out there that you can join that you can put your own comment, your own pictures, and then that'll work. And then we'll all know what to look for. So that's a great suggestion, Brittany. I like that a lot. If you like today's class and you think this is helpful and you want to keep seeing these, give me the thumbs up, guys, if you would, please. That's my attaboy. It helps my numbers on YouTube. And it helps make sure that people get the message about what it is that we're doing out here and our different classes. So I'd love it if you give me the thumbs up. If you want YouTube to suggest to you other videos that we've done, hit that subscribe button and they'll give you some suggestions about videos that you can watch. And if you, if you hit the little bell icon, they'll tell you every time we post a new video on YouTube. And of course, don't miss signing up for our newsletter. If you haven't done that, I think these folks would tell you that it's worth getting the newsletter to have all the wonderful links to the products and not have to dig around in the store to try and find things. So use the newsletter for that purpose. You also get exclusive coupon codes and offers that nobody else gets but newsletter subscribers. So be sure you do that. And you can also that way be notified when Britt's doing her What's New Wednesday, which has become our most popular video of the week, believe it or not. Thank you for sharing on Pinterest, Mary. That's so nice of you. If you guys can give us a shout out on social media, I love that. The one thing that's going to do more than anything to guarantee that we can continue offering you good quality classes is to expand our audience. As we expand our audience, we can do more and more things. So, excuse me. If you guys can help us out with that, with your referrals and your shout outs on social media, that's awesome too. Let me show you what we have coming up in our very next class. Since we don't have class this coming Saturday. For the rest of you, it's Independence Day. Me, I'm going to be working on taxes. I'm feeling anything but independent. Oh, poor me. Poor me. I don't like doing my taxes, but I have to do them. So this Saturday is tax day for me. Next Thursday continues tax day for me. But the following Saturday is going to be our iris folding class. And man, I love these cards. They look so complicated. I promise you, they are so much easier than you think they're going to be. We'll be doing this beautiful ornament in copper and gold with a pine background. Beautiful. We'll be doing this beautiful, beautiful snowflake. It's got kind of aqua colored glitter paper in the center of it with silver foiled paper and silver Mirri and snowflake paper. So pretty. And This might be my favorite. I don't know why. It just is. I love the kind of quirky little Christmas tree with the little holly berries and the plaid. It just speaks to me for some
It
reason.
reminds me of stained glass.
Does it?
The looks, I know that the plaid is there, but if you think about it as a stained glass piece.
It's just fun and pretty, and you're going to enjoy this so much. And this kit is such a good value because you're getting all the papers to do these 3 cards. You're getting all the papers, all the cards. You're getting a template that is reusable. It's got, I don't know how many designs on it, 4 or 5. I think it's got 5 designs in total on the template. And you can use it over and over and over again after we're done with this. It's, oh, here it is. Thank you, Margie. This is the template from hot off the press that we'll be using. You can make 2 different ornaments, the Christmas tree, the snowflake we'll be making. There's this holly template, and you can use this over and over and over again. And it's a wonderful opportunity for you guys to be able to use up some of that scrap paper we talked about. You'll be amazed what you can do just with what you already have in your stash. And this is going to tempt you even more to keep those smaller pieces of paper because when you see the papers we send out to you in the packet, it only takes a little paper to make these beautiful cards. So, hey, we got good stuff coming up. I already shared our backgrounds that will be part of our next stamping class. I'm going to show you how to do some just yummy backgrounds for your stamping. So, always good stuff on the horizon. I love you guys. Thank you for hanging out with me on your Thursday evening. Thank you for your patience with my little boo-boo and the extra time it took me to make my card look beautiful despite making an error on it. I'm Debbie from Simply Special Crafts. Don't forget that thumbs up if you would, please. And